The large meeting room on Nexus Prime was full of worried voices. Ambassador Zixatheta stood at the center, his crystal-like body glowing dimly with fear. Around him, representatives from 50 different species sat in their specially designed chairs. Some floated in water tanks, others rested on heated rocks. A few hung from the ceiling, but they all shared the same frightened looks. "The Dominion has taken another 3 star systems," Zixatheta announced. His voice echoed through the translator devices. "That makes 40 systems in 3 years. Our military fleets are destroyed. Our weapons are useless against their technology." Council leader Vornash raised his 6 arms for silence. The old creature had led the Galactic Council for 200 years. He had seen wars before, but nothing like this. The Dominion came from nowhere, using weapons that turned planets to dust and ships that moved faster than anything known. "We have tried everything," Vornash said slowly. "Peace talks failed. Our combined fleets failed. Even hiring mercenaries failed. Perhaps it is time to accept our fate." "Wait," a young voice called out. Kalarim, a small blue-skinned historian, stood up from her seat. She was only 40 years old, barely an adult by her species' standards. "There is one option we have not tried." The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at her. "The humans," she said simply. Several representatives laughed. Others shook their heads or made their species-equivalent gestures of disbelief. "Child," Vornash said patiently, "humans are just stories, myths, legends told to younglings to make them behave. They do not exist." But Kalarim did not sit down. She pulled out a small data crystal from her bag. "I have spent 20 years studying the old archives, the deep archives that nobody visits anymore. I found things, real things." She activated the crystal. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a strange creature, standing on 2 legs, with soft pink skin and no scales, shells, or natural armor. It had hair only on its head and wore artificial clothing. "This is a human," Kalarim said. "The image is 1,000 years old, but it is real. I verified it through 7 different authentication methods." The room grew quieter. The image changed, showing more humans. They were small compared to most species in the room. They had no claws, no poison, no natural weapons at all. "They look weak," someone commented. "That is what everyone thought," Kalarim continued. "But look at this." The hologram changed to show a battle scene. Human ships, crude by modern standards, but effective, fighting against massive organic vessels. "This is from the first Scourge War, 1,050 years ago. The Scourge had conquered half the galaxy. Every species was losing. Then the humans appeared." She showed more images. Humans fighting in conditions that would kill most species. Humans surviving wounds that should be fatal. Humans refusing to surrender even when outnumbered 100 to 1. "They won," Kalarim said. "The humans defeated the first Scourge. And then, when the Council asked them to leave because other species feared their influence, they did. They simply vanished." "If they were real, where did they go?" Vornash asked, now genuinely curious. Kalarim switched the hologram to a star map. A large section was marked in red. "The quarantine zone. It has been sealed for 1,000 years. Automated defense stations destroy any ship that tries to enter, but the stations are not facing inward to keep something in. They face outward to keep others out." Ambassador Zixatheta moved closer to study the map. "You think humans are in there?" "I know they are," Kalarim said. "The math is perfect. The energy signatures from the zone match human technology from the archives. They never left. They just isolated themselves." The room erupted in discussion. Some called it impossible. Others wondered if it could be true. But they all knew one thing. They had no other options. "Even if humans exist," Vornash said, raising his voice above the noise, "why would they help us? We asked them to leave. We rejected them." "Because," Kalarim said, "in every story, every record, every fragment of data I found, one thing is constant. Humans protect. It is what they do. It is who they are. The Dominion fleet would reach Nexus Prime in 10 days. After 3 hours of debate, the Council voted. They would send one ship to the quarantine zone. Captain Melvar was chosen for the mission. He was young, brave, and had nothing to lose. His home planet was already destroyed by the Dominion. His crew of 12 volunteers came from different species, all orphans of the war. The journey to the quarantine zone took 2 days. As they approached, warning signals filled their screens. Messages in 100 languages told them to turn back. Ancient defense platforms, each the size of a moon, powered up their weapons. "This is Captain Melvar of the Galactic Council." He broadcast on all frequencies. "We come in peace. We need help. The galaxy is in danger." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the defense platform stood down. A path opened between them. "Someone is listening," Melvar's pilot whispered. They moved forward slowly. The quarantine zone was huge, an entire sector of space hidden for a millennium. As they passed the defense line, their sensors went crazy. Energy readings everywhere. Structures that should not exist. Technology that broke known physics rules. And then they saw it. A blue planet orbiting a yellow star. It looked peaceful, beautiful, almost fragile. But around it, stretching for millions of miles, were constructions that defied belief. Orbital rings that could dock thousands of ships. Defense stations that dwarfed anything the Council had built. Ships, so many ships, powered down but ready, floating in perfect formation like sleeping giants. "By the void," someone on the crew gasped. "How many?" The sensor officer checked his readings 3 times before answering. At least 1 million vessels. Military design. All of them." Suddenly, their communication system activated. A face appeared on their screen. It was human, matching the archive images but somehow more intense. The human had short gray hair and eyes that seemed to see right through them. "Captain Melvar," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Admiral Jack Coleman of the Earth Defense Force. We have been monitoring your situation. The Dominion has killed approximately 7 billion sentient beings in 3 years. Melvar's throat went dry. You know about the Dominion?" "We know about everything," Coleman replied. "We never stopped watching. We never stopped preparing. The question is, does the Council truly want our help? Because once we act, once we reveal ourselves, things will never be the same." "Please," Melvar said, abandoning all protocol. "We are desperate. The Dominion will destroy everything." Coleman nodded slowly. "The Dominion is using modified scourge technology. We suspected someone would eventually find and misuse it." "Very well, Captain. Return to the Council. Tell them humanity will answer the call. Tell them the legends are returning." The screen went dark. But as Melvar's ship turned to leave, space behind them began to light up. Ships were powering on. Thousands, then hundreds of thousands. Lights spreading across the void like stars being born. The humans were waking up, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Jack Coleman stood on the command bridge of the USS Defiance, his hands clasped behind his back. The bridge was huge, with 50 officers working at different stations. Screens covered every wall, showing data streams, star maps, and status reports from across human space. After 1,000 years of waiting, the moment had finally come. "Amy, how many ships do we have ready?" Jack asked his operations officer. Lieutenant Amy Chen looked up from her console. She was young, only 30, but brilliant. 5 million vessels at full readiness, Admiral. Another 10 million can be activated within 48 hours. The colony worlds are asking if they should activate their reserve fleets too. Jack shook his head. Not yet. We do not know if this is just the Dominion or if something bigger is happening. The bridge doors opened and President Lisa Martinez walked in. She was 60 years old with silver hair and kind eyes that could turn hard as steel when needed. She had led humanity for 10 years, maintaining their isolation while the galaxy burned. Now she had to decide whether to end that isolation. Jack, she said, joining him at the main viewport. The council ship has left our space. They will reach Nexus Prime in 2 days. Are you sure about this? We cannot hide forever, Lisa, Jack replied. Look at the data. The Dominion is not just conquering, they are harvesting. They are collecting biomass and technology. This is exactly what the first Scourge did before they revealed their true form. Lisa studied the tactical displays. Red. Marks showed Dominion-controlled space, spreading like a disease across the galaxy map. The Senate is worried. They say we should stay hidden. Let the galaxy handle its own problems. And when the Dominion finishes with the Council worlds? Jack asked. When they have absorbed enough power and technology, they will come for us. Better to fight them now while we have allies than later when we stand alone. A communication alert sounded. Lieutenant Chen looked surprised. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It is on the emergency frequency. Put it through, Jack ordered. The main screen showed the council chamber. Captain Melvar was there, speaking rapidly to the assembled representatives. Jack could see the shock on their faces as Melvar described what he had found. Some looked hopeful. Others looked terrified. Then Council Leader Vornash appeared on screen, addressing the camera directly. To whoever receives this message in human space, I am Vornash, elected leader of the Galactic Council. We formally request assistance against the Dominion threat. We apologize for the past. We were wrong to fear you. Please help us. The transmission ended. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Well, Lisa said. They asked nicely. Jack turned to his crew. Begin Operation Revelation. Contact all fleet commanders. We move in 72 hours. Across human space, the message spread. On Mars, the shipyards that had been building in secret for centuries came fully online. On the moons of Jupiter, millions of humans in powered armor began boarding transport ships. In the asteroid belt, fighter pilots ran to their craft, eager to fly after generations of simulation training. But it was on Earth itself where the most important preparations happened. Deep beneath the surface, in bunkers that had existed since. Before humanity reached the stars, ancient weapons were activated. These were not ships or bombs, but something far more powerful. Knowledge. Databases containing every battle, every strategy, every victory and defeat in human history. Commander Joe Baker stood before his Marine company in the USS Liberty's deployment bay. 300 soldiers in advanced power armor, each one capable of fighting a small army alone. Listen up, Joe said, his voice carrying through their helmet speakers. Our grandparents fought the first Scourge. Our parents maintained the Watch. Now it is our turn. The galaxy thinks we are myths. Some think we are monsters. We are neither. We are human. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is our way. The Marines cheered, their armor-enhanced voices shaking the bay. Meanwhile, Captain Betty Walker sat in her fighter, running through final checks. Her squadron of 30 pilots would be among the first humans the galaxy would see in battle. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. Remember, she told her pilots, we are not trying to conquer. We are not trying to rule. We are trying to save lives. Every Dominion ship we destroy means 1,000 innocent people who get to live another day. Back on the USS Defiance, Admiral Coleman received a priority message. It was from the deep space, monitoring stations, automated systems that had been watching the galaxy for a millennium. Admiral, the station AI reported, we have detected an anomaly. The Dominion fleets are converging on 3 specific points. These match the locations where the first Scourge entered our dimension. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. His suspicions were correct. This was not just an invasion, it was a summoning. How long until they complete their convergence, he asked. At current speed, 7 days. 5 days after the Council's plea for help. It would be close. President Martinez made the final decision. She stood before Earth's Senate, 500 men and women who represented humanity's colonies and stations. For 1,000 years we have hidden, she said. We told ourselves it was for the galaxy's good, that they needed to develop without our influence. But the truth is we were also afraid. Afraid of being needed. Afraid of being rejected again. afraid of what we might become if we took the role of protectors. She paused, looking at each senator. But fear is not who we are. Humanity has always faced its fears. We feared the dark, so we created fire. We feared the ocean, so we built ships. We feared the void, so we reached for the stars. Now the galaxy fears the Dominion. It is time we remind them, and ourselves, that humans do not run from fear. We run toward it. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would return to the galaxy. 3 days later, the first human ships appeared at the edge of Council space. Not a massive fleet, not yet. Just 3 destroyers, sleek and black against the stars. They approached the nearest Council monitoring station. The station commander, a nervous creature named Kelpath, nearly fainted when the human ship hailed him. Council Station 7, this is Captain Paul Mitchell of the USS Thunder. We are the advanced scout of the Earth Defense Force. Please inform the Council that humanity has answered their call. The main fleet will arrive in 18 hours. Kelpath managed to stammer out a response. How? How many ships? Captain Mitchell smiled, though the alien could not see it. Enough. We are sending you technical data on Dominion weapons and defenses. Share it with all Council forces. You will need to prepare. The data package that arrived made Kelpath's systems crash 3 times before they could process it all. Tactical analysis of every Dominion battle, weaknesses in their shields, flaws in their formations. 1,000 years of human strategic development shared freely. Across Council space, the message spread faster than light. The humans were coming. The legends were real, and they were bringing hope. On Nexus Prime, crowds gathered in the streets watching the news feeds. Parents held their children, telling them they would be safe. Soldiers who had lost all hope suddenly stood straighter. But in Dominion space, War Master Grathtok received the same news with amusement. He was a massive creature bred for war, enhanced with Scourge technology until he was more machine than flesh. So the humans exist, he said to his lieutenants. Good. We will harvest them too. Their technology will make us even stronger. He did not know that every word he spoke was being monitored. Human spy satellites, microscopic and undetectable, had been watching the Dominion since they first appeared. Jack Coleman read every report, studied every weakness. The storm was coming. But this time humanity would not face it alone. And this time they would not hold back. War Master Grathtok stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devourer, watching the tactical display with 8 eyes. His fleet of 10,000 ships held position near the conquered world of Kalos Prime. The planet below was broken, its cities in ruins, its population enslaved. This was the Dominion way. Take everything, leave nothing. War Master, his sensor officer called out. We are detecting spatial distortions at the edge of the system. Grathtok turned his massive head. The Council sends more ships to die? No, War Master. These signatures are different. Space itself seemed to rip open. Not 1 tier, not 10, but hundreds. Through these quantum gates came ships unlike anything the Dominion had seen. They were smooth, elegant, and impossibly fast. They poured through the rifts like water through a broken dam. Count them, Grathtok roared. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. War Master, they keep coming. The human fleet assembled with perfect precision. At its center was the USS Sovereign, a ship so large it had its own gravity field. Admiral, Jack Coleman stood on its bridge watching the Dominion fleet with calm eyes. All ships, this is Admiral Coleman. Remember your training. These creatures have forgotten what it means to face humans. Remind them. Captain Betty Walker sat in her fighter, Thunderstrike, with her squadron formed up behind her. The fighters were small, barely visible against the black of space, but each one carried weapons that could crack a battleship's hull. Thunder Squadron, we are going in first, Betty announced. Stay close, stay fast. Their shields cannot track objects moving through folded space. Copy that, Thunder Leader, her wingman replied. Time to show them why humans rule the void. The Dominion fired first. Beams of energy that had destroyed entire Council fleets lanced out toward the human ships. They hit shield barriers that sparkled and held. The energy was not just blocked. It was absorbed, stored, redirected. "Return fire," Admiral Coleman ordered. The human response was devastating. Not wild shooting, not desperate attacks, but calculated, precise destruction. Each shot found its mark. Dominion ships began to explode, one after another like fireworks in the dark. Grathtok could not believe what he was seeing. "Impossible. Our shields are based on Scourge technology. Nothing can penetrate them." But the humans were not using conventional weapons. They had spent 1,000 years studying the first Scourge War. They knew every weakness, every flaw. Their weapons fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once, passing through shields as if they were not there. Betty Walker's squadron reached the Dominion line. "Phase jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark." The fighters vanished. They reappeared inside the Dominion formation, past all defenses. Betty locked onto a cruiser's power core and fired. The ship exploded from within, taking 2 others with it. "How?" a Dominion commander screamed before his ship was destroyed. On the planet below, the enslaved population watched the sky light up with explosions. They had given up hope, accepted their fate. But now they saw something impossible. The Dominion was losing. Commander Joe Baker led the ground assault. Drop. Pods fell from orbit like metal rain, each one containing a squad of human Marines. They hit the ground at terminal velocity, their armor absorbing the impact. Joe stood up from his crater, his armor's weapon systems coming online. "Marines, we have one job. Free these people. Dominion forces are scattered across the city. Hunt them down. No mercy for slavers." The Dominion ground forces were not ready for human Marines. Each human stood 8 feet tall in their powered armor, moving faster than should be possible for something so large. They carried weapons that turned Dominion soldiers to ash with a single shot. Joe found a detention center where thousands of aliens were held. The Dominion guards fired at him, their weapons barely scratching his armor's paint. He walked through their fire like it was rain, grabbed the guard commander by the throat, and squeezed. "Where are the keys?" he asked calmly. The guard, choking, pointed to a control panel. Joe dropped him and opened every cell. The prisoners stumbled out, unable to believe they were free. You are human?" an elderly alien asked. "Yes," Joe replied. "We are here to help. Get to the evacuation points. Our medics will take care of you." In space, the battle was turning into a massacre. The Dominion had never faced an enemy that fought like humans. The Council races fought with honor, with rules, with limits. Humans fought to win. Captain Paul Mitchell commanded a destroyer squadron, weaving through the battle like sharks through water. Target their command ships. Without leadership, they fall apart. The USS Liberty, under Captain Nancy Foster, demonstrated another human innovation. The ship split apart, not from damage but by design. Each section became an independent fighting unit surrounding and destroying ships 3 times their size. "War Master, we must retreat," Grathok's advisor pleaded. "Never," Grathok roared. "Activate the Scourge weapons, all of them." Dark energy weapons came online, weapons that should not exist in this dimension. They fired at the human fleet, expecting devastation. Admiral Coleman had been waiting for this. "Activate Project Aegis." Across the human fleet, special ships revealed their purpose. They created a network of energy shields, not just blocking the Scourge weapons but containing them, turning them back on the Dominion fleet. "You want to use forbidden weapons?" Coleman said, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Then face the consequences." The Dominion's own weapons tore through their ships. Grathtok watched his fleet die, consumed by the very power they had tried to control. But the humans were not done. From the USS Sovereign came a new weapon. Nanobots, microscopic machines that swarmed over Dominion ships, eating through their hulls, disabling their systems, turning their own vessels into prisons. Lieutenant Katie Adams led a boarding party onto a Dominion battleship. The corridors were dark, filled with panicking crew. The Dominion soldiers were fierce, but they fought as individuals. Humans fought as a team. "Sector clear," Katie reported. Moving to engineering, they found the ship's power core protected by the elite guard. The fight was brutal, close quarters, no room for error. Katie lost 2 Marines, but they took the core. The battleship went dark, helpless. On every front, the Dominion was collapsing. Ships fled in all directions, but human interdiction fields trapped them. The hunters had become the hunted. Grathtok, his bridge burning around him, finally understood. The humans had not just been hiding for 1,000 years. They had been preparing. Every ship, every weapon, every strategy was designed for this moment. Send the message, he told his communication officer. Tell them to activate the beacons. War Master, do it. The humans are too strong. We need them. We need the true scourge. In the depths of space, ancient beacons activated. Signals went out to places between dimensions, to things that had been sleeping since the first Scourge War. Admiral Coleman detected the signals immediately. So it was a trap after all. Sir? Lieutenant Chen asked. The Dominion was never the real threat. They were bait to draw us out. The real enemy is coming. But Coleman smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Good. We have been preparing for them too. Send word to Earth. Begin Phase 2. And tell the Council they need to evacuate the border worlds. The battle for Kalos was won. The Dominion fleet was destroyed or captured. The planet was free. But every human knew this was just the beginning. In his cell, Grathtok laughed. You fools. You revealed yourselves. They know you exist now. They are coming, and this time there are more of them. Commander Helen Price, who was guarding him, looked through the cell bars. We know. We have always known. Why do you think we built so many ships? The liberation of Kalos sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Dominion, which had seemed unstoppable, had been crushed in a single battle. The humans had not just won, they had made it look easy. But in the void between stars, things that should not exist began to stir. The second scourge was waking, and they were hungry. The Battle of Nexus Prime began at dawn, local time. 50,000 Dominion ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. War Master Grathtok had gathered every remaining vessel, every warrior, every weapon for this final assault. The Galactic Council's capital would burn, and with it any hope of resistance. But the humans were ready. Admiral Jack Coleman stood on the bridge of the USS Sovereign, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of 5 human fleets. 200,000 ships waited in the shadow of Nexus Prime's 3 moons, hidden by stealth fields that bent light and sensor waves around them. They brought everyone, Lieutenant Amy Chen observed, studying the Dominion formation. They are desperate. No, Coleman corrected, they are confident. Look closer at their energy readings. Chen enhanced the scan. Her face went pale. Those are Scourge signatures, not weapons based on Scourge technology. Actual Scourge energy. They have been infected, Coleman said grimly. The Dominion made a deal with something they did not understand. All ships prepare for phase combat. This will not be a normal battle. On Nexus Prime, billions of citizens huddled in shelters. Council Leader Vornash stood in the command center, watching the tactical display with growing dread. Even with human support, the numbers seemed impossible. Ambassador Zixatheta, he called. Contact Admiral Coleman. Ask him if we should evacuate. But before Zixatheta could respond, space around Nexus Prime changed. Giant structures materialized from nowhere. Human defense platforms, each one the size of a city. They had been there all along, hidden, waiting. President Lisa Martinez appeared on the main screen, broadcasting to the entire planet. Citizens of Nexus Prime, this is President Martinez of Earth. Do not fear. Humanity stands with you. We have been preparing for this day for 1,000 years. The Dominion fleet advanced, their weapons charging with dark energy. Grathtok, merged with Scourge parasites that gave him terrible power, laughed as he gave the order. Fire everything. Burn their worlds. Show them the price of defying gods. Stellar disruptors fired, beams that could destabilize stars. Planet crackers launched, missiles that could split worlds in half. The combined firepower could have destroyed a solar system, but humanity had not been idle during their isolation. Admiral Coleman gave a single command. Activate Project Aegis. Around Nexus Prime and every inhabited world in the system, shields appeared. Not normal shields, these were powered by compressed stars, energy sources that humanity had been building for centuries. The Dominion weapons struck the shields and were not just stopped, they were absorbed. Impossible, Grathtok screamed. Nothing can stop Scourge weapons. You are not fighting the galaxy anymore, Coleman broadcast to the Dominion fleet. You are fighting humans. We wrote the book on impossible. The human counterattack was swift and brutal. Ships that had been hiding in folded space appeared inside the Dominion formation. Captain Betty Walker led her fighter wings through dimensional jumps, appearing and disappearing like ghosts, each appearance marking another Dominion ship destroyed. Thunder leader to all squadrons, Betty called out. They are clustering around their command ships. Break them up. Do not let them coordinate. The fighters danced through space, too small and fast for Dominion weapons to track. But these were not normal fighters. Each one carried antimatter torpedoes, weapons banned by every civilized race but standard for human military. Captain Paul Mitchell commanded the destroyer pack, 100 fast attack ships that moved like a single organism. Pattern Omega. 7, he ordered. Cut them apart. The destroyers accelerated to speeds that should have torn them apart. Their inertial dampeners pushed beyond safe limits. They carved through the Dominion formation like blades through cloth, leaving destruction in their wake. But the Dominion had one advantage. The Scourge infection gave them regeneration. Ships that should have been destroyed began to repair themselves. Dark energy knitting hull breaches closed. Sir, they are healing, Chen reported to Admiral Coleman. Then we stop playing nice, Coleman replied. All ships, authorization Coleman Alpha 9. Deploy the void weapons. Across the human fleet, sealed compartments opened. Weapons that had been locked away since the first Scourge War were brought online. These were not just weapons. They were crimes against physics itself. The USS Liberty, under Captain Nancy Foster, fired the first void cannon. The beam did not destroy its target. It erased it from existence, removing it from reality, so completely that the universe forgot it had ever existed. My God, someone on the Council Command Center whispered. What are they? Commander Joe Baker led the Marine assault on Dominion boarding pods that had reached Nexus Prime's orbital stations. The Dominion warriors were huge, enhanced with Scourge, biotechnology that made them nearly unkillable. Nearly Joe's armor was scarred from a dozen hits, but he kept fighting. His rifle fired rounds that phased through dimensions, hitting targets from angles that should not exist. When a Dominion warrior grabbed him, he activated his armor's Nova mode, a controlled nuclear explosion that vaporized everything within, 50 meters except himself. Marines do not yield, he broadcast to his troops. Marines do not retreat. Marines win or die. And today is not our day to die. In space, the battle had become something beyond normal warfare. Ships fought in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons fired backward through time to hit targets before they could dodge. Reality itself became a battlefield. Commander Helen Price commanded the USS Vengeance, a ship designed for one purpose: to kill things that should not exist. As Dominion ships regenerated from impossible damage, the Vengeance fired weapons that attacked the concept of the ships rather than their physical forms. Target locked, her weapons officer announced. Conceptual torpedo ready. Fire, Helen ordered. The torpedo did not explode. Instead, it convinced the universe that its target had never been built, had never been designed, had never been imagined. The Dominion battleship simply ceased, not destroyed, but uncreated. Grathtok watched his fleet disappearing, not dying, ceasing to exist. The humans were not just winning, they were rewriting reality to ensure their victory. Activate the final protocol, he ordered. Summon them all. Dark energy surged through the Dominion fleet. Every ship became a beacon, calling to things between dimensions. Space began to tear, not in one place but everywhere. The second scourge was coming, and not as a vanguard but as an invasion. Admiral Coleman saw the readings and made a decision. All Council forces retreat to minimum safe distance. This is about to become very dangerous. What are you going to do? Bornash asked over the communication channel. What humans do best, Coleman replied. The impossible. The USS Sovereign moved forward, alone, toward the center of the Dominion fleet. The massive ship's true purpose was finally revealed. It was not just a battleship. It was a weapon designed to fight gods. All crew, prepare for Lighthouse Protocol, Coleman announced. It has been an honor serving with you. Inside the Sovereign, a compressed star was released from its quantum prison. The ship became a miniature supernova, but controlled, directed. The explosion did not expand outward. It expanded inward through dimensions following the paths the Scourge were using to enter our reality. Lieutenant Katie Adams, watching from her captured Dominion ship, saw space itself scream. The rifts that were opening reversed, pulling the emerging Scourge back into their dimension. But more kept coming. Admiral, one ship is not enough, Chen shouted. Coleman smiled. Who said it was just one? Across the battlefield, 12 more human ships revealed their true nature. Each one carrying a compressed star, each one ready to burn reality itself to stop the invasion. This is Captain Carl Johnson of the USS Phoenix, came a broadcast. Lighthouse 2 activating. Captain Bill Harrison, USS Dragon, Lighthouse 3 activating. One by one, 13 human ships became stars. The energy they released did not just destroy, it sealed. The dimensional rifts could not stay open against such force. The Scourge, caught between dimensions, were torn apart by the very forces they used to travel. Grathtok, his ship burning around him, finally understood the truth. The humans had not been preparing to fight the Dominion. They had been preparing for the return of the Scourge. Every weapon, every ship, every strategy had been designed for this moment. You knew, he gasped as his bridge exploded. You always knew they would return. Admiral Coleman, his ship burning but holding together through will and engineering, responded. We knew, and we prepared. Humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our ships. It is our refusal to accept defeat. The battle was ending. The Dominion fleet was destroyed. The Scourge invasion was stopped. But the cost had been high. 13 human ships, with all their crews, had sacrificed themselves to seal the dimensional rifts. As the light faded and space returned to normal, the surviving ships gathered. Human and council vessels floated side by side, united in victory and loss. Admiral Coleman, Bornash said quietly. 13 ships, thousands of your people. We are sorry. Coleman stood on his damaged bridge looking at the stars. They knew the risks. Every human who joins the fleet knows that one day they might be asked to stand between the darkness and the light. Today, 13 crews stood, and the light survived. The second Scourge arrived 3 days after the Battle of Nexus Prime. They did not come through rifts or tears in space. They simply appeared, as if they had always been there waiting. Beings of pure energy, each one the size of a moon, feeding on matter and converting it to void. Admiral Jack Coleman stood in the war room aboard the USS Sovereign, its hull still scarred from the previous battle. Around him, holograms of human commanders and council leaders flickered in the dim light. How many? President Lisa Martinez asked from Earth. Sensors count at least 1,000 entities, Coleman replied. They are consuming everything in their path. 3 systems have already gone dark. Council leader Vornash trembled. The legends say the first Scourge nearly destroyed the galaxy with only 100 beings. How can we fight 1,000? Coleman turned to face them all. We do not fight them, we end them, permanently. He activated a holographic display showing the entire galaxy. 12 points lit up in red, spread across human and council space. The Lighthouse Project, Coleman explained. For 1,000 years, humanity has been building these. 12 stations, each containing a star held in quantum stasis. Together, they create a network that can rewrite the fundamental laws of physics across the entire galaxy. That is impossible, Ambassador Zixatheta said. For you, maybe, Coleman replied. For humans, it is Tuesday. The Scourge entities moved through space like cancer through a body. They did not destroy planets. They unmade them, converting matter to nothingness. On the colony world of Haven, 20 million souls watched the sky turn black as an entity approached. Captain Betty Walker led the evacuation effort, her fighter squadron holding a desperate line. All civilian ships, jump now. We will buy you time. Her fighters danced around the entity, firing everything they had. The weapons did nothing. Energy passed through the scourge like light through water, but Betty had not survived this long by giving up. New plan, she announced. We cannot hurt it, but maybe we can distract it. All fighters, pattern Crazy Ivan, make ourselves the most annoying targets possible. 30 fighters began the most insane flying ever attempted. They flew through the entity, around it, between its energy tendrils. They could not damage it, but they could confuse it, slow it down. Every second bought more time for the evacuation ships. One by one, her pilots vanished, consumed by the entity. Betty watched her friends die, but she kept flying. When her fighter was finally caught, her last transmission was simple. Worth it. On Earth, humanity made its choice. The Senate voted, the people agreed. They would activate the Lighthouse project, even though success was not guaranteed and failure meant the end of everything. President Martinez stood before the global assembly. We are humans. We crawled out of caves and built cities. We looked at the ocean and built boats. We saw birds and built planes. We looked at the stars and said, we belong there too. Now the universe shows us its darkest nightmare, and we will show it ours, a humanity that refuses to die. Commander Joe Baker led the ground defense of Lighthouse Station 7. The Scourge had sent smaller beings, things that could take physical form, to destroy the stations. They were nightmares made real, constantly changing, adapting, learning. Joe's Marines held the line for 6 hours. When ammunition ran out, they fought with blades. When blades broke, they fought with fists. When armor failed, they fought with will alone. Sir, we cannot hold much longer, a Marine reported, his armor cracked and leaking. Joe looked at the station behind them. The technicians needed 10 more minutes to activate it. Then we hold for 10 minutes. Sir, there are only 12 of us left. Then 12 will be enough. They held for 11 minutes. Joe was the last to fall. His final act to detonate a nuclear device that cleared the area long enough for the station to activate. Captain Carl Johnson commanded Lighthouse Station 1, the master control. As the network came online, he felt the power flowing through the station. Stars compressed to points of infinite density, their energy channeled through dimensions humans had only theorized about. All stations report ready, his technician announced. But sir, the calculations show a problem. The network will work, but someone needs to manually synchronize the quantum fluctuations. It is a one-way trip. Carl did not hesitate. Then I will do it. Sir, you will not survive. I know, but humanity will. That is enough. Across the galaxy, similar sacrifices were being made. At each lighthouse station, humans volunteered to stay behind, to ensure the network functioned perfectly. They knew they would die. They volunteered anyway. The Scourge entities sensed the danger too late. They converged on the stations, 1,000 beings of pure destruction racing to stop what was coming. But humanity was ready for them. Every remaining human ship formed defensive lines around the stations. 5 million vessels, from massive dreadnoughts to single-pilot fighters, stood against the darkness. Admiral Coleman gave the order. All ships, all weapons, everything we have, by the station's time. The battle that followed was not a battle. It was the apocalypse. Ships rammed into entities, detonating their cores to slow them down for seconds. Entire fleets sacrificed themselves to protect single stations. Captain Paul Mitchell took his destroyer directly into an entity's core, broadcasting as he went. Tell my kids I love them. Tell them their dad stood when it mattered. Commander. Helen Price used her ship to shield Station 3, her hull dissolving under the entity's touch. Her last words were, "Humanity, forever." The council races watched in awe and horror. They had seen humans fight, but this was different. This was an entire species choosing death over defeat. Then Kellerim, the young historian who had found the humans, did something unexpected. She took her small research vessel and flew it toward the nearest entity. "What are you doing?" Vornash demanded. "Learning from humans," she replied. "They taught us that some things are worth dying for." Her ship exploded against the entity, doing no damage but inspiring others. Soon, Council ships joined the defensive lines. For the first time in galactic history, all races fought as one. Katie Adams, now commanding the remnants of Thunder Squadron, made a final run on an entity approaching Station 9. She had no weapons left, no tricks, just her fighter and her will. "This is Lieutenant Adams to any who can hear. Remember us. Remember that we stood. Remember that we did not go quietly." She flew into the entity's center and detonated her fighter's core. The explosion bought Station 9 3 more seconds. 3 seconds that made the difference. "Network synchronized," Carl Johnson announced from Station 1. "Activating in 3, 2, 1. The galaxy changed. Light erupted from 12 points simultaneously. Not normal light. This was the light of creation itself, the first light that had ever existed. It spread like water, washing over everything. Where it touched the scourge entities, they screamed. Beings that were anti-life itself could not exist in the presence of such pure creation. They tried to flee, but the light was everywhere, in every dimension, in every possible space. One by one, the scourge beings dissolved. Not destroyed, but undone. Their very existence negated by the fundamental rewriting of reality. The network did not just kill them, it made it impossible for them to exist. Admiral Coleman watched from his bridge as the last entity faded away. The cost had been terrible. 15,000 human ships destroyed. Entire fleets gone. Heroes, beyond counting dead. But they had won. The scourge was gone not just from our dimension, but from all dimensions. The Lighthouse Network had rewritten the basic laws of reality to exclude them permanently. As the light faded and normal space returned, Coleman received a transmission from Earth. President Martinez appeared on the screen, tears on her face. "It is done," she said simply. "The nightmare is over." Coleman looked at the casualty reports. So many dead. So many heroes who would never come home. Yes, but at such a cost. "They knew the price," Martinez replied. "Every human who stood today chose to stand. That is who we are." In the following days, as the galaxy recovered, monuments were built on every world, not to human conquest, but to human sacrifice. The Council offered humanity leadership of the galaxy, but Martinez declined. "We do not seek to rule," she told the assembled Council. "We seek to protect. We will rebuild our fleets, maintain our watch, and if darkness comes again, we will stand against it. Not as your leaders, but as your neighbors." Grathtok, the former War Master, was the only Dominion leader to survive. In his cell, he asked Coleman one final question. "Why? Why sacrifice so much for races that feared you?" Coleman thought for a moment. "Because that is what makes us human. We protect. We sacrifice. We endure, not because we must, but because we choose to." Years passed. The galaxy rebuilt. Human and alien children played together on worlds that had nearly been consumed. The story of the Second Scourge War was told everywhere, but not as a legend. As history. As proof that sometimes the monsters are real, but so are the heroes. And in the depths of space, human sentinels maintained their eternal watch. New lighthouse stations were built. New fleets were constructed. Not for conquest, but for protection, because they said humans were just legends, until the sky filled with their warships. And now the galaxy knew that legends were not just stories. They were promises. Promises that when the darkness came, humanity would stand against it. Forever.